All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar. I'm Crystal Liu. I'm the World Language Specialist at Nebraska Department of Education. And today we are very happy, and I'm very thankful to Language Testing International. I think the Garcia White from Language Testing International to help to put this to communicate and put this webinar together. And we are very honored to have Jennifer and also Michael to join us to present. Thank you very much, Michael and Jennifer. Could you please introduce yourself and take it away? Thanks.
Sure. Michael, would you like to go first?
No, you could go first, Jennifer.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jen Carson. Some of you who are involved with NSSFL may know me because I was involved with NADSFL. I was a French and Spanish K-12 teacher. Then I was a world language coordinator for many years in a large district in Virginia where I live. And I also was a professor at my local university, ODU, where I taught world language methods and assessment. And so now I work with Language Testing International as their proficiency and learning specialist. And I'm really excited to be with you today to talk about this really timely topic because it is very dear to my heart. And we'll talk more about that later. Michael?
Jennifer, you're a tough act to follow. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Herrera. I'm the proud executive director of Upper Bucks County Technical School. I'm also very involved with my association of career and technical education, serving as Region 1 Vice President elect. I love the career tech ed. I love workforce development. And for the past year and a half, I've really gotten involved with the different language groups and the different channels. Wonderful, talented, caring people. So again, I'm really love the intersection between education, work, language, credentialing, and building stronger communities through career and technical education and workforce development.
I mean, today's focus, we're posing these as questions. This is what we'll be talking about today. And as it's a fairly small group, we're hoping that it will be quite interactive. Some of us are coming from the CTE world, others from world languages, and others yet from other fields. So how can language education strengthen that connection, that intersection that Michael was talking about between education and workforce needs? How can providing language certification motivate and empower students who are studying world languages, students who are learning English, and students who are just students who are neither of those, but know an additional language other than English? And then finally, how do we increase access to English learners and multilingual learners? We're leaving a lot of time at the end for question and answer, but if things bubble up as we're speaking, feel free to type something in the chat and we'll stop and address your question.
It's essential, going back to the slide, that we focus on reducing the critical skills gap. What better way than integrating a career and technical education with language and vice versa, language programs with CTE. As a CTE and workforce professional, I firmly believe college and career focus needs to start as early as kindergarten and be embedded across all content areas, including language programs. In order for this to happen, we must reimagine education and break down the silos. We must find ways to serve all students. At Upper Bucks, our enrollment has surged from 650 students a decade ago to 925 students with applications of close to 500 students and about 250 students on waiting lists. I hope our main takeaway today is recognizing and credentialing language skills in career technical education prepare students for high demand, high paying jobs while addressing critical workforce gaps.
Thanks. And so in the past, multilingualism, or having a home language other than English, was considered a deficit. And now I think we're reframing this as an asset that that will empower the students, whether they're in a CTE program or not, to recognize that connection between what they already have and can do with language, and then whatever career they desire. And that also, it's a flow of information basically between the students, the teachers, and then the future employers. So we've placed a lot of links in here, and we will be able to share with you this slide deck. But for each of them, you can see that English language learners are a huge portion of our school population, and that language studies have been declining, world language studies. So just bringing all those students together to amplify that message that language is an asset. I think we all know from our own personal experience, and we also know from some really important studies that have recently been done. Multilingualism is extremely important. It is valued by employers. It changes the brain. It enhances our critical thinking, and it also hopefully protects our brain from any kind of deterioration as we age, which we all do. And there is a growing demand for multilingualism. You can see here from the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs survey in 2023 that multilingualism is number 18 in the most important skills that are required by employers. And multilingualism, we're speaking to the language or linguistic ability, but even study of language at a lower level of proficiency develops other durable skills that employers are looking for, that kind of flexibility and being comfortable and sensitive to people other than yourself, people with different backgrounds. And I'm sure in this group, we all are familiar with the Making Languages Our Business report. It shows that 9 out of 10 US employers report a need for employees to speak a language other than English, and that need is growing. I'm not going to read everything on this slide, but this is a resource for you, and you can see that this is especially important when you're talking about all of these intersections between career technical education, economically disadvantaged families, individuals with disabilities.
I believe career and technical education is the new civil right. Nationally, in 22-23, 7.8 million secondary CTE participants were recorded nationwide. Nationally, key populations included economically disadvantaged, 47.1% of students. We're similar statistics at my school. Students preparing for non-traditional fields, 25.5. Individuals with disabilities is 14.8. My school would have close to 40% of our students have an IEP or a 504. I would wonder what percentages the attendees have in their school district, and 7.4 were English learners. While employers increasingly demanding multilingual skills, and a significant portion of CTE participants being English learners, integrating language development into CTE programs is critical for our workforce.
Thanks, Michael. We have some other visuals here from that Making Languages Our Business report. These are some of the factors that I described earlier in a more beautiful rendition. And the demand for specific foreign languages, if you look here, primarily Spanish, but you'd be surprised to see a large number of French, for example. And if you look at the employers in your region, you might be surprised to see so many that are international. So where I reside in Virginia, we have the US headquarters of Stihl, which is a German manufacturing company. We also have, I always get this wrong, CMA CGM or CGM CMA, which is a shipping company headquartered in France. And so they require, I mean, they obviously require people with those skills, but they may also be sending some of their employees overseas, and then they come back with those skills, and so do their family members. So this would be a moment so we can all reflect and respond. And some of you have already started this, but really, what is your experience connecting language, so home language or language study, with career technical education or career readiness? I'll wait for a moment because not everyone is a fast typer. I see that Freddie had already responded. I'm interested in the topic because it lets me see other areas where students can increase their knowledge and self-awareness. And Anita had said she was interested because she wanted to give her students information about future paths that connect the work study abroad, also learning languages. Thanks, Crystal. Crystal can see the connection, but it's hard for me to make the case and help others to understand. So that's really helpful to me, Crystal, because that is partly why we're embedding so many links to data so that one can make the case either at the Nebraska Department of Education, at a school district level in central office, or even in an individual school.
And I believe that was one of the asks through JCNL, is to keep those study abroad programs. Our culinary program through Hard Work is going to Italy to learn culinary. So again, connecting language and culture to the outside is it's a great opportunity for our students, and we're looking then to continue that. Perhaps other areas moving forward.
And Therese added that her own daughter recognized the value of learning German to a pretty high proficiency level to her work in engineering. And that is absolutely true. If you look at the engineering papers that are published, they're often in German, and this gives you access. And it also connects you to colleagues around the world.
Therese, one of our students, former career technical education students, works for B. Braun, and he had to travel to Germany, and he didn't have the German language, and he had to learn that quickly. So students who have that ability are in high demand. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a great point. We also met at the JCNL conference, different German organizations that I think Michael Shaughnessy, who works
He's at AATG, yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that? That was a great contact that I met just through this connection with languages.
Yeah, so I hope that most of you, if you're in the world language space, you're aware of JNCL Nicholas. And every year, it has been 5 years since we last lobbied on Capitol Hill, on the Hill, for world language education funding. Since the COVID pandemic, we were virtual, and we still met with staffers every year, but this was really wonderful to come together in person, having new people from, like Michael from CTE, seeing what we do and putting their voices together, because the advocacy shouldn't just be from the world language instructors or educators. It should also be from companies, from organizations, from parents and students themselves. And when I went to lobby my senators and representatives, we actually had students come with us, sophomores and juniors, and they threw their voices in why this was important to them. And one of the asks was to support the funding for the Paul Simon Study Abroad Act. If you all do not know about JNCL Nicholas, and I don't know why we say it that way, I put it in the chat, and then you can Google that and find out how you can learn how to advocate. They have a lot of wonderful resources. And maybe you can join us for Language Advocacy Days. We're having a virtual event in the fall, and then another in person in February of next year. Okay, tell us about what you're doing in Bucks.
Okay, before that, Anita made a really good point too about giving the students they need to pursue language study as lifelong learners. In career tech ed, many of my instructors want to, because when you get into career technical education, many of the students have to pick between language or career and technical education. But for many of our programs like law enforcement, dental, healthcare, it's critical that we kind of embed that. If we could find ways to partner or work together, that would be, really, really helpful. But Upper Bucks and Language Testing International created a partnership for opportunities to give students and their families that have never been made. We started off with a cohort of students that we had to identify through our student management information systems, if they spoke a language other than English at home. And what we found is many of the students felt uncomfortable about reporting that. So creating a cohort, an opportunity, we found that our students became, when they learned about credentialing language, that they went and told their friends. And I don't know about you, but there's not many students that are out there. So how can we take additional tests? But they just saw the value of it. This slide represents Upper Bucks, the Bucks County region. One of our guest speakers at graduation who tested and actually received the ACTFL language assessment, and also would have qualified for the Seal of Biliteracy, just loved the connection between language and career and technical education. And that's her quote. So we felt invisible, but here at Upper Bucks, we felt like home. And the impact of the ACTFL language assessment on our English language students has been transformative. Many students were unaware that these assessments could showcase their bilingualism to employers. They were previously immersed in sheltered English language development programming and focused on English acquisition. So during the first year, we had 44 students in grades 9 through 12 who were motivated to strengthen their native language and English. Local business, including restaurants, salons, dentistry, and law enforcement, were eager to recognize and celebrate the students' linguistic achievements. Take Alondra and Sierra, for instance. They'll be the first in their families to pursue a college career pathway, partnering with the local restaurant to showcase their culinary talents and their cultural heritage. But that is just one story. These 3 middle school students aspire to careers as teachers, entrepreneurs, and law enforcement officers, proudly embracing their bilingualism. Harini, a 3rd grader, felt invisible last year because her home language went unrecognized. Her sentiments resonate with many others who feel unseen and unheard. Obstacles are becoming opportunities thanks to the ACTFL assessments and the efforts of our educators, leaders, and local businesses that value language diversity. Together, we are empowering our students to thrive in a multilingual world. To address the untapped opportunity of leveraging language ability for career opportunities, UBCTS and Language Testing International developed a framework for implementing language credentialing in CTE available to students regardless of how, when, or where they acquire their language ability. Recognizing language proficiency as a vital skill and a significant asset in the workforce, we provide our students from all backgrounds with equal access to economic mobility and employment opportunities through this industry and, very, very important, legally defensible credential. I had an opportunity to talk at the Seal of Biliteracy Summit. We had a HR person from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia who talked about at that hospital, there's 120 languages, there's 20 full-time translators, and it's not enough. So for our students that are able to get that ACTFL credential, whether it's Mandarin, whether it's Turkish, whether it's Spanish, not only are they having the technical credential, but that language goes a long, long way, and it's so valuable on their career journey.
Thanks. And I think when we talk about language credentialing, I mean, students can take all different types of tests that purport to test their language ability, but only official ACTFL tests are themselves language credentials. Students do not need to seek a Seal of Biliteracy, but they can. But alone on its face, an APPLE score, which is the ACTFL language proficiency assessment for students in grades 3 through 12, and is often used as evidence of proficiency to support a student attaining the Seal of Biliteracy in each state. But really, what's important is whether or not they achieve or attain the threshold of the Seal of Biliteracy in your particular state, they still will have a valid credential. It's industry recognized. And what's really interesting is there's a movement afoot. I've noticed we did some advocacy in our state legislature recently in Virginia, where we passed what was House Bill 2360 that is now on the governor's desk for signature, that will actually state explicitly that the Seal of Biliteracy is an industry credential for the purposes of collecting data and for graduation requirements. So that will be a big change, I think. There'll be more attention paid to all students who have language skills.
Jennifer, if we could just, and one of the things that I learned is we use the term credential, but for us, this really measures students' ability. So take one of our dental students who stopped learning Mandarin in 3rd grade when school became difficult. He sat through this assessment. We celebrated his accomplishments. We shared it with his mother, who was so proud, who brought him back to China and just was really proud of demonstrating his skills in certain areas, and it also then is motivating them. I have many students like that. They took this assessment and they can't wait to take it again this year because it was a nice gauge for them. And the nice thing about it, it connects it to the different workforce. And we have Language Testing International has great posters showing that language with specific careers and clusters and the value and the importance of that. Language truly is a superpower. I think Freddie mentioned that. How do we, promote that to our students, that this is something to be proud of? You should be able to present that. And what better way through the ACTFL assessments to start that journey?
Thanks, Michael. We did include some of the visuals from those posters in this slide deck, and we can provide them to Crystal to share with you so that you could print them out and place in your hallways or in the school counseling office where you work.
So the Upper Bucks Way, all of our students leave with multiple industry recognized credential. Teresa's on, that's so valuable to us. The emphasis now on is skills first. Credentials and micro-credentials has never been stronger. Credentials, it enhances individual job prospects. It fortifies our economy. It asserts our global leadership and innovation, helps our students succeed in a multicultural workforce, helps create a sense of belonging regardless of background. The trades, healthcare, law enforcement, manufacturing sectors are all increasingly seeking multilingual professionals. In addition to an economic asset, it increases safety on the job site. And I can't state it enough that we have to, and all students who have this talent or the superpower should be taking this assessment.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how many of your schools currently offer language credentialing?
A great question.
I can see that Freddie already took one of the assessments. Okay, I'm looking in the chat for response, but I will move to the next slide because there's so many great photos and tidbits.
This was one of our first meetings. We had a champion at the county with Meg Burke. And implementation steps is you just need that one champion at your school to manage test ordering and score delivery, inform families about the opportunities, request permission for student participation if required by your policies. Try to do a student find. You'll be surprised on how many students, at least what we found was that they didn't really recognize and they didn't really want to promote that they had a language asset. And I think that's the key component. To me, it seems like it's a no-brainer, but again, you just need to have that champion that wants to help students. And again, on this slide, we just want to talk about the legally defensible, and you really want to partner with the businesses in your area.
Yeah, right. So you can support the businesses in your area by making that connection. Students will find out what's needed, and also maybe you can connect students with internship opportunities.
And what a wonderful way then to, celebrate that. Here's a scary statistics about mentorship and partnerships and getting your students out in the community. 77% of students felt that they learned more on the job after 6 months than they did 4 years at the university level. So Therese, in Career Tech Ed, we are trying our best to get students, provide those real world experiences, find different ways that they could use language into careers. And it's really important that we find ways to either bring industry and business into our programs, or find ways to get students out looking at careers at a young age.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that the generations do change, and students now really want to see real world application. They become frustrated and bored if they don't see something they're learning being applied in the real world. And you're doing that. So that's part of that whole motivation and empowerment piece, in letting them see what they have and what they can do with what they have.
We're starting as early as we're on this conversation, as early as kindergarten. Students in one of our local school districts are getting the RIASAC. It's the work on Holland. They will get, they'll take tests, and our teachers are, whether it's the RIASAC model, I'm not sure how many are familiar with that, but it's built into all of the different lessons. And that lesson, I think, is important, middle school, high school. If I'm realistic, if I'm enterprising, if I'm a conventional learner, if I'm enterprising, taking their attributes and then finding a way to connect that with language, it's a game changer. So I would encourage, as we begin to look at credentials, that you begin to learn, your students learn about their dreams and their aspirations, and how that could help them when they graduate.
So I love this picture because it reminds me of a celebration at Upper Bucks County Technical School last spring, where I met some of the parents who were even weeping with joy to realize their children knew as much of their heritage language, that we validated that with an official ACTFL assessment. So that was really very powerful.
We had the participation of students and parents coming in that night was incredible. For those that work in high schools, we know how difficult it is to get any parent to come out at night. But by celebrating the process, we had great participation from students and parents. One of my students, Jonathan, was visiting family in Florida. When he found out we were having the celebration night, he says, I have to come back and support Dr. Herrera, because he was working as a technician through Toyota, and he just saw the value of that when his boss found out that he was proficient in Spanish. It really helped his career trajectory. And he came out that night to just say, thank you. We've got wonderful students like you do. So that's why it's so important to do everything we can to help them, give them the edge needed, like the ACTFL assessment and these credentials.
Right, and celebrating, that celebration really focused on the students. And some of these students may not have been recognized previously, let's say for academic distinction, but they have really great talents and lots of skill. So, I mean, I think it's important to remove those silos, to connect English language learning, world language learning, and all learning, so that language testing is not just provided to students in world language classrooms, but to all students. Right, and it does have an incredible impact on students' earning potential. I know that one of the students that I spoke with at Upper Bucks was given a manager position even in high school, because he could converse with the other workers and explain what they were doing to the management. And it was the management didn't believe they had such a high level of Spanish until he showed them his ACTFL certificate and the score.
And can I just say one thing, right? Many applications say, what's your proficiency in speaking or reading? And I think that goes back to some of the comments. The ACTFL assessment is legally defensible, doesn't need translation. And I think that's the most important part about that. And as we get to the posters and we see the benefit of that, it's not something that it's proven.
Right, and ACTFL assessments are the only ones that are deemed to align with the ACTFL proficiency guidelines. They're also the only K-12 assessments that assess the interpersonal mode, which is really, I mean, I think that's really where proficiency resides. And look at all these partners that Michael has with his school.
Career Tech Ed is really going to be at the forefront of education, because we offer the industry recognized credentials. We offer the ability for internships, co-op, you'll see that, but we don't operate in a vacuum. And so we meet with all business, industry, EMS, fire, and I think the more we could do that through careers and for the language teachers too, finding ways to partner with Career Tech Ed, because we would love to partner. We see the benefit of that. And when we talked about taking the silos down, that's very, very important. So we do applied learning, hands-on. Here are the statistics. I'm in Bucks County. We said we have about 925 students. 146 of our students were out working. When you take a look at their salaries, this will continue to grow from civil construction to aviation, to hospitals, to construction. We need to really work together. And that, to me, is the best social, emotional, and I think, again, bringing language to Career Tech Ed, career connected learning is the future.
Yeah, I agree with Freddie that funding is important as well. Personally, I have 6 children, and 2 of mine went through Career Tech Ed, and one ended up using his certification in Java to have a job while he was attending university, and now he's an accountant. So CTE doesn't have to be like your entire and always career. It also can be a livelihood on a path in a different direction.
And Freddie, in terms of where the department is, I think what we found is we've got to develop both local and state strategic partnerships and relationships. The language teachers with the CTE, with business and industry. And I think that really happens at the local and the state levels. For example, in Pennsylvania, everything is focused on industry recognized credentials in Career Tech Ed, not language yet. We're trying to advocate for that. So again, I think everything being kind of local and, seeing the benefit, what works for you is the way to go. 83% of our students were offered employment after their co-op experiences. Our business industry partners continue to grow. This is just by school district. And when you track and measure this, the amount of hours worked by students, the hourly wage, and the impact on the last slide is, I just wanted to show an area of a footprint of the amount of where our students are working. A lot of time goes into this. And going to the next slide, Jennifer, is we celebrate all accomplishments and all placements. So every business we employ a UBCTS student. We were considering putting up a multilingual business insignia sticker, which is not out of the realm of possibility, but we just chose to do a general one because to us that's helpful, right? So whether it's some underrepresented groups, whether it's our special ed, whether it's our EL population, whether it's an economically disadvantaged, that all falls under the umbrella of our logo, what we believe is important, UBCTS. And when you make those connections with the businesses and industries, your board members, your parents, your students coming through your program see that. They'll see that in the community. So we have to be, whether it's language or career tech ed, we have to market our success. We have to tell the story. And we hope that we're doing that through these marketing and the promotion, celebrating the success like Jennifer mentioned. I'll turn it back over to you, Jen.
Yeah, so it looks like, you can see that in these different economic sectors where they have identified that they need more world language skills and less or not sure, much, much smaller. And certainly even the ones about the same, it's pretty high. I wanted to just give you a short overview of the Apple in that it tests those 3 modes of communication in 11 languages. So there's interpersonal listening and speaking, where the student engages in a simulated conversation, and there's the presentational writing. Both of those productive skills are rated by certified ACTFL raters. And then there is the interpretive listening and interpretive reading. And all of these sections can be ordered and administered in one sitting, or ordered separately, or ordered together and administered separately on different days at different times of the year. So extremely flexible. If the test is taken all at once, it would take at most 2 hours. And each section is between 30 and 45 minutes. So it's just very easy to do. I've done it with my students. I've proctored hundreds of these tests when I was in central office, and I had 11 high schools and 13 middle schools that were testing. So that's one of the reasons I'm with LTI. I was a very satisfied customer. What do students get when they complete their testing? Well, they get this official ACTFL certificate, and it will give the actual score, so an Apple score, and that aligns with the proficiency guidelines. You can't quite see here, but this student, Sally's student, in interpersonal listening and speaking got an advanced low, in presentational writing got an intermediate high, and then in both interpretive reading and listening got an advanced low. When you think about functional use of language, advanced low equates with the expectations for teacher licensure for a K-12 teacher of the language. The students also get a score report, and I'll pull that out so you can see it more clearly, where you can see that the score description shows what the student can do with language using the phrases from the ACTFL performance descriptors. And then there's a strategy section. So here the student has the actual score. They now know what they can do. They know where that is on the ACTFL proficiency guidelines, and it's explained for that particular skill and mode. This can be shared with parents, with administrators. Strategies are provided, and these are useful to students for personalizing their pathways, for remediating, for extending. It can be used by parents to help their students keep their language up over the summer, for example. And this is one of the posters that I love, and it's very vivid. This shows an I-5, which is an intermediate high score. It tells the students what they can do with language, and then what jobs are aligned with that. So, okay, K-12 teacher is not included. That would be advanced low. But look at all the other things they can do in that language. They can be a flight attendant, a custodian, a transit conductor, a customer service representative, a truck driver, a sales clerk. They may not have thought of all these things that they could do. One of my daughters, before she got the job she has now, worked at the Apple store in Washington, D.C. And it was phenomenal how much her Spanish from high school was useful, because everybody would come in. They're coming in from all different countries. They wanted to know, they saw what looked like a familiar face, and they would just speak to her right away in Spanish. And she could assist them with their needs. Maybe she can't write a treatise in Spanish or be a Supreme Court justice, but certainly she had functional language use. And her employer, Apple, recognized that. There were salary adjustments for her doing that kind of work. That's good to know. Here also, and Michael will speak more to this, but I wanted to say that we do offer also this poster. This is for students who are studying in the health professions, but we have ones for welding and that sort of thing. When you put that up in a hallway and students see themselves and they feel empowered, we also have these stickers, which I have one on my laptop, that multilingual, what's your superpower? And we lead with that often. We say, what is your superpower? Well, students can proudly display that. Michael, I know you wanted to speak a little to this slide.
Yeah, I think the best advertisers are your students. So once you have a core group of students, they tell their friends, and that's important too. So I think this is what we started with. This gives students the voice. It gives them support. It allowed me as an administrator to get to know students that I normally would not have gotten to know, and their parents. So the more we could create these small learning groups, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, we can both speak to this, but yeah, there are recruiting bonuses. There are salary adjustments, as I explained before, and having a credential like an official ACTFL score can be used to apply for a scholarship, for an internship, for jobs, college, Peace Corps, anything that they do.
Jennifer, some of my understanding is some of the, through JCNL, some of the funding came through the Department of Defense or GOSHA.
Right, that's
true.
In fact, the district in which I was before I came to LTI, Virginia Beach, the students received the school district received the ROLARA grants, which are for military connected school districts, and there are several in our area, and they used that to credential their students.
Again, for the national security area, so the students that we have that speak different languages, I'll give you an example. One of my former auto collision students went on, learned Arabic, was in the military, used that as a great advantage. So I think the connection with national security and language cannot be understated too. And that's where some of that was, some of that grant money started, and it seems like that was very successful, right, Jennifer?
Yes, absolutely. And of course, police officers, EMT, fire departments, banks, anywhere there's a job, there's extra pay, or preferential hiring for people with validated, proven, credentialed language skills. So we really like this, the visual, but also the saying. So think about credentialing as the key you can give students to open the door to their future, to their opportunity.
Reach out to ACTFL, find out what it takes, whether it's October or April. Those assessments are worth every cent, in my opinion. Just have a champion, start small with that cohort, but it really was a game changer for us.
We love hearing about that. We have added some additional resources with clickable links for you. The Department of Education.
Going back, what we did was at Upper Bucks, we
Yeah.
really worked with OLA and OCTI, which is Office of Career Tech Adult Ed, bridging the gap. The work that was started is on this one link. It's on the Perkins Collaborative Resource Network. So these are excellent resources for you to look at your leisure.
So
Here are some of the CT specific resources, Therese. An article from the Association for Career Technical Education, from the Seal of Biliteracy Summit, some of the pathways that Language Testing International has made with corporate, government, Department of Defense, retail, hospitality, a lot of great resources. And we were also focused in the synergizing success, academic and career integration in CTE, which is published by the Association for Career and Technical Education.
So we hope we've hit our objectives. And that final one, the question and answer, how can we address your questions? So since we're in a format where you can unmute yourself and ask us some questions, you really have a unique opportunity to talk to me. I'm a language and proficiency specialist, but with Michael, who is boots on the ground, who really has planned, organized, and administered the test to students with great success.
Thank you.
Don't be shy.
Thank you. Thank you for the great information. In fact, this is very inspiring. We can see I can see the possibilities, more possibilities and potentials now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do have a question. When we talk about credentials with Apple business, so I mean, because I'm at the state level, so how do I communicate that? I mean, CTET, Career Technical Education, right? CET team, they're always busy and they're not, I mean, when we reach out and I don't know how to make the conversation sounds more like inspiring for them, exciting for them, you know?
Yes. Actually, in Virginia, what we've done is we've created a grassroots organization called Global Virginia, and it pulls in the DOE for World Language Education, DOE for English language learners, DOE for CTE, and SHEV, which is our university organization, and then stakeholders, people who are involved with the CIA, you know, I'm in it, members of ACTFL who reside in Virginia are in it, educators in all those spheres, and business leaders. And so we're trying to get momentum behind things like that legislation I mentioned earlier. And so reaching out, Crystal, across the aisle to all of them and sharing what you've learned, just saying, I met with a CTE leader and he told me what he's doing in Pennsylvania. We can do what, in Nebraska, we can do what they do in Pennsylvania, you know, and getting that excitement going.
Never underestimate the power of what you're doing in your schools and celebrate and promote that. We started this journey, I think last October. I took a ride to White Plains, New York. I met the wonderful, talented people at LTI. We didn't have a roadmap. We just knew that there was a connection between language, workforce development, economic prosperity. And there were some naysayers. Well, how are we going to do it? What are we going to we didn't have an answer. We didn't have the roadmap. We tried to put together the playbooks that help, but we had questions like who's going to be the champion, or how are we going to teach languages? Like we knew we didn't have the ability to do that, but we could validate the language. That's where we put our focus on. So I think that goes back to, Freddie and the conversation that we had. Never underestimate the power of what you do at the local level, and then let that spread out, and then, turn it into a best practice. Rely on each other, celebrate that, and put it to good use. And as Kim is saying, in Pennsylvania specific, our other districts have the same vision and passion, and I thank you, Kim, for that. It's hard, right? It takes a little bit of time to implement it because of budgets, et cetera. When we heard about, like, through Perkins, and we get emails, we started at Bucks, but for people, again, it's the first step is usually the hardest. So it's going to take a couple presentations, and I do believe everyone is going to see the value of that. There's a world language group that is being developed in Lancaster. Kim, I'll connect that with you. Sherry is part of the World Language Association, and she's developing a career roadway map. I think that's in April. I'm not sure if you're part of that, Kim, but we'll make sure that you have that invite, because again, there's synergy. Let's connect. I met wonderful people with the language groups, and they invited myself. I brought some hospital executives. Again, we're building this roadmap together. And how we started, let's break down the silos. Let's talk the language and the CTE, the workforce development, the career-connected learning. We have to find ways to work together.
If I could add, this is Therese. Hey, Crystal. I know you and I have talked about this, and Crystal did a great job coming and talking to our career and tech ed team. I'm part of the team she's talking about. And it's true that that everybody's busy and that we're down a handful of people. So it does become one of those it's like, yeah, everybody loves the idea, but we have the things that we need to do. So one of the things I would suggest is finding, it's not that we're not excited. I think we're all very excited about the possibility. I think what is necessary, though, is that those individual career field leaders on the team would benefit from seeing some of the examples that you guys are pointing to here, and then finding some way to provide the context in their area and anything that would help along the way. So for instance, I'm a cross-field specialist, so it's much easier for me to see these things, right? It's work-based learning, workforce partnerships. That's like my world. But for them, they're very much in almost a niche, if you will, because they're looking at very specific, like, family and consumer sciences, and then STEM, like, et cetera. So for them, that would be useful. Also, maybe, especially in Nebraska, we have a lot of very small schools that, if we're lucky, they have 2 years of Spanish. Done. Like, that's it. That's what's available. And my own students, my own kids, I make them do outside of that, because our small school, that's what we have. And I'm like, nope, we're doing more. You're talking to me every day, whether you like it or not. So because it's important for later, right? So finding other things that we could help those smaller schools that don't have 4 years of a language, or don't have, they might have issues like that. So let's look at ways to maybe contextualize the career and technical education materials in a handful of languages that would be, like a starter set, if you will. Just thinking of things like that, I see as potential approaches for timing that in there. Just a thought. But yeah, we are excited. We love the idea, and we loved when Crystal came and talked to us. It's just kind of like, it's like, that was great, but then how do we build it in, right?
And
Yes.
from the language group,
Yeah.
I put the PSMLA Language Summit in, and they reached out to us and the different work, and this is how we're finding ways on how to work together.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Can I find some time so that we can explore together? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You've got my info, right?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Right, and then I did see that Crystal put in the chat, can you show us the playbook? So basically, do you mean the playbook, like how he recruited the students? What was the schedule of the testing?
Jennifer, if you go back to my slides, it would be the first one through the Association of Career Tech Ed is a
Yeah.
great start. That would be
Which one, this one, about octane?
keep going, please.
Green when I get there.
That's towards the bottom.
Is it?
It's all the way towards the bottom. It's like the resources at the end.
Ah, voila, I got it. Okay, that'll make your heads spin, sorry. Here?
Yeah, the first link is a nice.
This one?
Yes, please. And this is what was published in the Association of Career Tech Ed. Talks about how we supported our multilingual students, why it matters.
I'm gonna put that in the chat so Crystal and anyone else can access it quickly. It's a great blog.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the kind of thing, step by step. Identify a point person, inform the families, set up the testing accounts, that kind of thing. You lay it all out there, Michael. That's really makes it user-friendly, kind of a plug in and play.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Okay.
Jennifer,
Yeah.
can you please click on language as an asset too? That is also another good resource.
Yes, I
Right,
shall.
in the same click
One
on
here.
that link, and then right,
Oh, voila. I
right
see it.
there.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, this is a really great blog post by Jennifer Dobel-Quinlan. So yeah, this also can be a bit of a playbook. Suggesting monitoring annually, tracking student language development. Are you planning to test all the students annually? Michael, I know that you had some younger students, sophomores, who had taken the test.
Yeah, actually, some has qualified as a 10th grader, so they're going to take it. And then I have a couple students anxiously awaiting a second test because they want to score even higher. And so, yes.
Yeah, actually, ESU 5 and Nebraska Education Service Unit in 5 and Nebraska actually are doing appellate testing each year for their students to kind of identify which proficiency level their students are. It's actually, I think it really helps And also we have competency-based credit, which also, we're trying to put things together, and the other pieces are easier for us. But, CTE is really a challenging part for us, So actually, we're using the same set of Seal of Biliteracy, same set of assessment for Seal of Biliteracy and also competency-based credit. In Nebraska, we have 5 school districts started competency-based credit. That means students can take assessment to get high school credit. And also it helps schools to place students on the right level, because some students are already native speakers. When they came in, they sometimes get to put into level 1 Spanish class, which is not good. It's problematic for both teachers and the students. So this really helps. We actually are doing a lot of assessments in Nebraska. We just want to, the most important part is we want to make connection between CTE and what language. Actually, intermediate high level is actually intermediate mid, and high are actually language proficiency for workplace. So they can actually function in workplace, and we just need to help communicate. And it would be really helpful if we can have this built into become one of the credentials for career technical education. So students can show, okay, I have this training and this CTE training, and also I have a language. So they can show their future employees at the same time, I have the bilingual skills and I have the skills you're asking for, so that I can be great candidates for the position, kind of thing. That's something I can want to see in Nebraska.
When we put forth that legislation in Virginia this year, it's just finding, again, a champion. And you could maybe talk to Lisa Harris about that. She wasn't part of it, but she's aware of what's going on.
Yeah, we just need to figure out, like Teresa mentioned, we need to figure out successful examples to show both teams. Yeah. And also, actually, I just explored on my, what language week website. And this is a link to it. And on the top of it, actually, we have successful stories. This year, we're super busy. We're doing standards revision. So we don't actually have a lot, but these are students' testimonies. They are bilingual students. We know Hannah actually graduated from the Omaha South High, I think, immersion dual language program, and she becomes the world language coordinator. So she is a perfect example how her language skills help her. So
and how about doing a special thing on the workplace and jobs, and how, that would be a wonderful addition.
Yeah, we are planning to do 5 interviews, but things get crazy. So we only have 2 interviews, but these are from bilinguals learners. The first one, Grace, is actually a UNO student, and she talks about her bilingual experience. And Hannah is from OPS.
I love that. I put in the chat that LTI offers an annual biliteracy SEAL scholarship to students, high school students that have attained the Seal of Biliteracy. And so I think more information will be coming out in the next month or so about that. That's a great way to acknowledge what a student has attained, but also to celebrate them. And so the students provide a video, and they're very creative. You'd be surprised at how wonderful. If you ever get depressed and think that the next generation is not amazing, creative, interesting, multilingual, then You should meet these students.
Thanks for sharing. Thank you.
You have until
Very like that, thanks.
May 30th, so it's opening soon, and this year's theme is language is an asset.
Okay.
Thank you. I hope all of you nominate your deserving students.
So do we, I mean, as teachers, we nominate or administrators or anyone, it's okay.
I think administrators can as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I will share it and get everybody excited because, you know, Seal of Biliteracy is getting more and more popular in Nebraska now.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, you'll have in the chat from today's webinar, you'll have, Crystal, all of those links that we added, and including the ones you have. And then I'll send you the files with the posters we showed so that you can get that out to the teachers in Nebraska and the attendees.
That's great. I will do that. I will grab the links. Thank you. Any other questions? Anita, I see you leave a message here. Do you have any questions or do you have any other comments?
No, I'll talk to you later because I don't want to I don't want to take up people's time for such a like individual thing.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everybody for their time and their attention. I really enjoyed connecting and interacting with all of you. And I hope you took away some things that you can do when you get back to work tomorrow morning in wherever role you have.
I appreciate being part of this. Thank you. I'm involved with social media on LinkedIn, and our social media handles are on there. We do a lot of s'mores. We're always promoting our student success. They're our best advertisers. I feel to connect with me on LinkedIn and follow our story at Upper Box.
Oh, can you share? You said you share your student success on social media. Can you put your social media account so that we can see the examples from your state and your school district?
I
It's
think
on the first slide.
it's on the slide deck, and I will be sharing that with you right after we're done here.
Okay, great.
I pull
Awesome.
it up
Thank
right
you.
now if you want.
I think I need to work on putting the examples, you know, things together when I follow up with Teresa. She said, yeah, we need examples and how to do it. Yeah. For me, it's like, I talk about it, I get excited, but yeah, I don't know they are excited. They are excited. Yes, that's true. We need to figure out how to do it.
Jen, pull up one of my newsletters for an example. So marketing is very, very important to us, and we have to be able to tell our story. So our student success is very important. We're constantly putting things out for the community. We talk about placements, and similar with language, I think we have to promote and put that out there. These are just examples of what we do in the month, and I'm a big proponent of getting that message out and the value and importance of language and career technical education.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, this is fabulous.
Yeah. Can you add me to your mail list when you send out your email? Your newsletter.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Jennifer and Michael, this is awesome. I really appreciate this. Thank you. The great session.
Thank you.
Helping me to connecting dots.
Yes. Yeah. Well, have a great evening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.